Hello and welcome to this first lecture on Impressionism, part of our art history class. This will be a first introduction about Impressionism and art history. So if you want to learn more about Impressionism and art history in general, please follow me and give me a thumbs up. So what if I told you that this painting, soft, blurry, unfinished looking, once caused outrage, that critics laughed at it, that it gave birth to one of the most influential movements in art history? Today, we're beginning our art history journey with Impressionism, a movement that didn't just change how painters painted, but also how we see. This is Art History Class 1, and this is a story of artists who learn to see differently. So, before we dive into the painting, let's start with a simple question. What is Impressionism? Impressionism is an art movement that emerged in France in the late 19th century, roughly between the 1860s and the 1880s. And instead of painting idealized scene or historical myth, Impressionist artists focused on modern life, everyday moments, and most importantly, the fleeting effects of lights and color. Rather than carefully polished surfaces, they embraced loose, visible brushstrokes, bright, unmixed colors, ordinary subjects like cafes, streets, rivers, and gardens. And their goal wasn't to paint reality as it should look, but as it feels in a single moment, so an impression. In 19th century's France, the art world was dominated by the Académie des Beaux-Arts and their annual exhibition, Le Salon, and they decided what good art was and what good taste was. So what the Academy valued was smooth, invisible brushwork, clear outlines, historical, religious, or mythical subjects, and a polished, finished look. Paintings were supposed to tell grand story and to demonstrate technical mastery. And artists trained for years to meet those expectations. And if your work was not accepted in the salon, then your career could be over even before it begins. And so it is in this context that in 1874, a group of artists who were tired of rejection decided to organize their own exhibition. Among them were Claude Monet, Pierre-Auguste Renoir, Edgar Degas, Camille Pissarro, and Berthe Morisot. And one painting in particular caught a critic's attention, and it's Claude Monet's Impression Sunrise. And so the name, of course, of the movement comes from this work of art, and a critic made about it. A reviewer mocked it, saying, "Impression, I was certain of it. I was just telling myself that since I was impressed, there must be some impression in it." And so, of course, the word impression here was meant as an insult, but this artist embraced it. So what were these artists doing differently that shocked critics so much? The biggest shift was how they saw lights. Instead of painting objects with fixed colors like blue or green, they asked themselves, what color does this object appear right now in this light, in this moment? They notice that shadows aren't black, they're purple, blue, green. Light changes constantly throughout the day, and color is affected by what's around it. Claude Monet famously painted the same subjects over and over again, haystacks, cathedrals, water lilies, just to capture how lights transform them at different moments. And another revolutionary idea that this movement brought was that everyday life was worthy of art. Instead of kings and god, Impressionists painted people at cafes, ballet rehearsals, train stations, leisure activities along the river. Edgar Degas painted dancers trenching backstage, not performing perfectly but caught mid-movements. Renoir painted friends laughing, eating, and enjoying the city. It's important to keep in mind the historical context. This artist lives in a time of rapid change, with industrialization, expanding cities, new social classes. And so Impressionism became a visual record of modern life in motion. And Impressionists didn't just see differently, they also painted differently. They painted what is called en plein air, so meaning outdoors instead of in studios. And thanks to new inventions like portable paint tubes, Artists could paint directly in front of their subjects, use short, broken brushstrokes, little to no black paint, and complementary colors placed side by side. Up close, a impressionist painting can look a bit chaotic, but if you take a step back, the whole image comes alive. At the time, critics called impressionist art lazy, childish, incomplete. But today, this painting hang in the most famous museums around the world, and that is because Impressionism opened the door to modern art. It gave artists the permission to break rules, experiment, trust personal perception. And without Impressionism, we wouldn't have other art movements such as Post-Impressionism, Cubism, or even abstract art. Impressionism matters because it represents a fundamental shift in how art was made and understood. For the first time, a group of artists rejected the idea that a painting had to follow academic rule, tell historical or moral stories, and appear polished and complete. Instead, Impressionist artists focused on direct observation. They painted what they actually saw: light changing throughout the day, colors affected by atmosphere and movements, ordinary moments from contemporary life. They also changed how paintings were made. By working outdoors, using visible brushstrokes, and applying unmixed color directly to the canvas, they allowed the viewer's eye to participate in the image. This approach challenged traditional ideas of skills and artistic authority. Importantly, Impressionism marks the beginning of modern arts. It established the idea that an artist's personal perception could be more important than established rules or institutions like the Salon. And this idea would shape every major art movement that followed. So that's it for our first look into Impressionism. It was kind of an introduction to start our Impressionism lecture. In the next class, we'll move away from technique and perception and we'll look at Paris itself, the city that shaped these art movements. We will have a look at how urban life, leisure, class, or even gender influence what those artists chose to paint, and why Impressionism could only have emerged in this specific time and place. So thank you for watching this video. If you liked it and if you like cultural content in general, please follow me for more content, and I'll see you next week in the new video. Bye!